Hey folks, welcome to Last Breath Woodworks. I'm Josh. Now in today's video we're going to take this old weathered piece of cherry burl and turn it into something that's just absolutely beautiful and amazing. Now this piece is actually going to be a gift for my oldest daughter for her birthday, and this is a very special gift, and I'll get into the meaning of that later. But for now, I just wanted to use this to remind her that no matter how rough and weathered things may seem on the outside, there's always a beauty hidden within, and you just have to dig for it to find it. And as you can see from this piece, I think this story is going to come to a beautiful ending. Look at that beautiful character coming out already. Now with a flat spot already cut to mount my plate to, I needed to find the center of that burl to utilize as much of it as possible. So I just marked the center and then used a pencil to mark out with my gauge roughly the diameter of the form that I was going to use to mix in a little epoxy with this piece. Now, some of you that have seen some of my other videos may remember a while back I made a mistake on cutting that round straight up and down, and it wasted a lot of epoxy. So here, I tilted the table so that my blade or cut was tapered as well, so that that burl that I'm cutting would fit into that form nice and snug, without a lot of extra airspace that would waste a lot of that expensive epoxy. With my round cut, I just added a couple dabs of hot glue to the bottom of that burl so that I could stick it to the bottom of that form so that it didn't float up once I added the epoxy. Now I decided to mix in a kind of a reddish brown pigment with this that had a lot of metallic sparkle to it. I mean, my girl may be a tomboy, but she's still a girl and likes to be a princess at times, so what girl doesn't want a little bit of sparkle? Now I use 24-hour epoxy, but I still use a pressure pot because there were some cracks in the pith and grain of that piece, and some voids, and who knows what all inside of that burl. So I wanted to make sure that that epoxy got pushed in every nook and cranny. After it was cured, I just popped it out and screwed on a faceplate to it. And finally this thing was on the lathe. Now I just started out truing it up and getting it into round, and as you watch me work here, you'll see that a majority of that epoxy that I put in is going to get turned away, but it's all good because it will be kept where it needed to be. All the little cracks and voids and little bark inclusions and all that stuff that's in those burls, it filled up the space that needed to be filled Otherwise, if it wasn't there, I would have ended up turning this thing down to the size of a thimble before it was clean. And who knows, it might not even been clean then. Now here I'm just marking out the maximum diameter for a recessed tenon to mount this thing in the chuck. If you look closely, you'll see that the bottom of this is already concaved, and I'm just carving in a channel to put my chuck in because I'd rather have the chuck pinching in on a solid piece of wood than pushing out on these brittle burls. With the piece turned around in the chuck, it was time to re-true it up and give it its final outside shape. Now with that done, I just started hollowing out the inside, leaving the tailstock in place, and creating a pedestal in the middle. And if you haven't guessed what's going on by now, we're making a ring bolt. And this is what I was referring to earlier as the special meaning of this piece for my daughter. The ring bowl has quite a bit of significance. This is going to be the last birthday that I will be the main man in her life, as she is getting married this summer. So, of all the memories we've shared, hunting, fishing, camping, whatever, probably the biggest joy we've shared together is the joy of cooking. And whenever she cooks, she takes her ring off and needs to find a place to put it. So I just thought it was fitting that I make a ring bowl for her, that even once she's married and decides to make a meal for her husband or family or whoever, she has a place to put that ring, and whenever she sees this piece, it will remind her of all the memories that we've made together. So now as I whittle away at that stem, I'm taking really light cuts because this burl is extremely brittle when you get it into thin pieces like that. And the last thing I wanted was for this thing to blow apart on me at the very end. So instead of using a scraper or other tool to finish this off, I just decided to use sandpaper. I start out with 80 grit all the way up to 320 on the inside, and then on the outside 80 grit all the way up to 800, because I wanted to get a really nice smooth finish on that epoxy and all that burl figure. Finally, I just used some isopropyl alcohol to kind of clean up all the sanding dust and sludge and get all the pores of the wood clean. You can see on that towel there was a lot there. You may notice that I wrapped the chuck in tape, and that's to keep the rags and my knuckles safe from getting chewed up. Finally, I just added a final coat of my friction polish, and then after that was rubbed in, I let it spin for a couple hours on the lathe, and once it was dry, I added a quick coat of lacquer to give it a nice hard finish so that it was waterproof and resilient to wherever she puts this thing. Now, if you like what you've seen here today, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Anything you can do to help this channel would be greatly appreciated. I'll put up some glamour shots at the end, and as always, thanks for watching Last Breath Woodworks.